All right, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Ellie, and thanks everyone for, excuse me, for attending today. Really appreciate your interest. And I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. I'm Steve Monowitz. I'm the director of the Planning and Building Department, and our Administrative Services Manager, Ellie Dahlman, has prepared some slides for us all today, and I'll pass it over to her to walk through them.
Great. Thank you, Steve. So on today's agenda for this pre-conference meeting, we will do introductions of all the county staff who are here. We will talk about the purpose of this RFP. We will provide an overview of the RFP process and particularly the RFP timeline to make sure all of the deadlines and due dates are that everyone is familiarized with them. And then we will have the rest of the session really dedicated to question and answer between the county and all of the potential applicants who are attending. So in terms of introductions, perhaps we'll just go in this order. You heard from Steve Monowitz, who's our Community Development Director, and then I will hand it over to Stephen Lau, who looks like just joined us. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hello, sorry for running a little bit late. My name is Stephen Lau. I'm the interim building for this official for the county.
Great, thank you, Stephen. And we'll go to Sophie.
Hello, I'm Sophie Mintier. I'm the Assistant Community Development Director.
And my name is Ellie Dahlman. I'm the Administrative Services Manager for the Planning and Building Department. And Elizabeth Kimmel, I'm just multitasking here. She's our IT supervisor, and we're having a little bit of difficulty getting the link to work. So she'll be joining us momentarily, and then I'll hand it over to Richard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard Vallejos, and I'm an IT analyst with the Planning and Building Department.
Great. So in terms of the purpose of this RFP, the Planning and Building Department is seeking an automated solution that can interpret building and site plans, that can check the plans for zoning regulation and building code compliance, and that can provide a recommendation for approval or denial of the submitted plans. And our hope through the services that we hope to acquire through this RFP is that they will help to ensure the highest level of efficiency and accuracy in the plan review process, and also help to minimize or reduce plan check review times. And the purpose of this meeting today is really to explain a little bit more about the county procurement process in case you aren't familiar, to confirm important timelines, and to also allow time for question and answer. So with that, I will dive right into the RFP process. So the first step, which you all likely saw, is that the RFP was posted into public purchase, which is the system that the County of San Mateo currently uses for posting requests for proposals, requests for services publicly. Today is the pre-proposal conference meeting, and the next key step in the process would then be the question and answer. Of course, today we'll have question and answers, but we also have a deadline, which we'll talk about in detail later on, for when the deadline to submit questions is through the RFP process. Of course, we will accept questions after that deadline, but we, depending on the turnaround time, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to provide a response depending on how far out it is from the deadline. And then we'll have the deadline to submit the proposal, responses to the RFP. So that's when the RFP closes. It's very important that responses are turned in advance of the day and time, or by that day and time, because any responses that are not received through public purchase will not be considered. After we receive the proposals, the county will conduct a panel evaluation and ranking of the submissions. And I will add, hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at the RFP document. We have very detailed scope of work included there for the services that we're requesting, and we also have detailed information about what we would like you to submit as part of your proposal. And then after we evaluate the proposals, we may hold interviews with the top ranking vendors and we'll do final scoring after that. And once a top vendor is selected, we'll begin negotiations before the board, county approval for award. The Board of Supervisors will have to review and approve this contract before we're able to actually have it signed and executed. So the timeline, we talked a little bit about these steps in the last slide. On Friday, this last Friday, August 25th, we posted the RFP in public purchase. It is open for 4 weeks. Today is our pre-conference meeting with the goal of providing an overview of the RFP process and answering any questions that you might have. Thursday, September 7th is the deadline to submit written questions in public purchase. The reason for having a deadline is to ensure that we have sufficient time to prepare a response and also to post that response in public purchase so that all of the potential applicants are able to review that information and take it into account as you're preparing your proposal. Friday, September 22nd is the deadline to submit your proposals in public purchase, no later than 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please make sure in advance of that day to set up an account if you have not already in public purchase and familiarize yourself with the process, as we will not accept any proposals that are submitted after the RFP deadline. And then the week of October 8th will be when we are tentatively scheduled to hold interviews with applicants. I think we'll be fine to do those virtually. And then submission, the December 2023 is when we anticipate the board would consider the contract and be able to actually hold a kickoff meeting. So with that, that was a really high level overview of the RFP process, key deadlines. We now want to open it up to, well, I'll open it up to Steve in case you have anything else that you think is very important for proposers, potential proposers to keep in mind. And after Steve provides any final comments, I welcome attendees to go ahead and submit any questions that you have through the Q&A button that you should see at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you, Ellie. No, I thought that was a great overview. I don't have anything to add to that, and I'll just be happy to respond to any questions that potential applicants may have.
Great. So we will give you, those of you who are on the call, just a few minutes to formulate any questions that you might have. And maybe we can hang around for just a few minutes. I don't see any questions submitted yet in the Q&A. And if you don't have any questions today, as I mentioned, we of course will be accepting questions submitted via email or through public purchase. So we encourage you to be sure to submit any questions that you have through both of those places, and we will be posting responses in public purchase. And so I see the first question is, approximately when will the selected vendor be notified of the award? So going back to our timeline, let's see if I can. So we will be reviewing, we should have a final top ranking candidate likely by the end of the week of October. I would say maybe mid-October. We would expect to have be in communication with the top vendor to initiate negotiations around a contract. We did include the county's template contract in the RFP packet, so we encourage you to take a look at that in advance so that you're familiar with that. And then will there be a digital copy of rules and regulations available that summarize the planning regulations?
I'm happy to take that on, Ellie. So our zoning regulations are available on the Planning and Building website. If you go under the planning tab, you'll find planning regulations and a link to the zoning. With regard to the building code, that's a subscription-based service that we cannot share copies of. So if potential applicants want to familiarize themselves with the building code requirements, you'll have to obtain them directly from the State Building Standards Commission.
Great. Thank you, Steve. So for the next question, it says, where can potential vendors find the optional technical security assessment referenced in this RFP? That should be attached in public purchase as a PDF attachment. And after this call, I will double check to make sure it is there. And if it is not, that would have been an error. So I'll be sure to upload that to public purchase today if it's not there already. And the next question asks, is this an open bid? Is there any connection with bidders from the RFI process? This is an open bid in the sense that anyone who meets the minimum qualifications can submit a proposal to the County of San Mateo. It is open to the public, so there's no limitation to, the county did conduct a request for information process earlier this year, and this request for proposals process is open to anyone that would like to submit a proposal, as I mentioned, that meets the minimum qualifications. And the last question here asks, is there a quantitative evaluation rubric for RFP submissions? We did include in the RFP document an outline of the areas that will be considered when the county committee is evaluating RFP submissions. So I would encourage you to take a look at the RFP document to reference that evaluation criteria that is there. And it looks like that was the last question that I see here. So I'll do a final call for any additional questions or comments that Steve or any others on the call might have from the county.
Thanks, Ellie. Before you get to this next question, I'll just supplement my earlier response. So, with regard to the building regulations that the county enforces, the county has a set of building regulations that incorporates the California Building Code. The county's building regulations are also available on the Planning and Building website. It, describes the administrative procedures by which we implement the building code, but it's the actual building code that establishes the basic standards that we would expect this product to use in conducting the plan review. So I think we can move on to the next question, Holly.
Great. So I see the next question asks, how many different plan types or formats does the Building and Planning Department expect to be processed by this solution?
I think that's open for discussion unless any of the team members want to chime in. I think to the degree that the county will need to specify a certain type of format in order for the plan review to work, that is something that can be considered. At this point, what the method that we're using is we accept, digital plans that we upload into a system called Bluebeam, and that's where we conduct our electronic plan reviews. Richard or Elizabeth, would you add anything to that?
Sure. I would just, go ahead, Richard. Is that you?
Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth. Fine.
No, I was just going to say that Bluebeam is what we use to have people actually doing the review. So in theory, if an AI bot was doing the review, it wouldn't necessarily be using Bluebeam to look at stuff. It would be a PDF that's uploaded, and then we can set requirements for what the limitations are on the PDF if that's something that a vendor recommends with a specific software. But from my position, it would just be a PDF. Richard, did you want to say something about vector versus raster?
Sure. Yeah, like Elizabeth says, yeah, PDFs are kind of a requirement for the format of a digital file that we take, and preferably, you know, vector-based document would be preferred. Although we currently do handle raster-based as well. But so if the solution can handle both, that is definitely a bonus. But yeah, that's all I have to add to what Elizabeth said, though.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you both. All right, I see one additional question. Who are the expected end users of this system?
Would you like me to answer that?
Sure.
The expected end users of the system are really going to be our plan reviewers. The system should be making recommendations and justifying its recommendations, and a human plan reviewer will look at the recommendations and validate that they're correct. So it's our staff, not the applicants. They're not going to be using it. They're going to be submitting in their plans. We would like an automated system to make sure that the plans are in compliance and give human planners recommendations that they can proceed with to expedite the amount of time it takes us to do a review, and also to help us with quality control and sort of eliminate human error.
Great. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. So with that, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. I'll do one final call for questions. And as mentioned, if you think of any additional questions following today's meeting, please submit them via public purchase, or you can also submit them via email to me, although public purchase is preferred. Let's see, we have another question here. What is the expected contract term after the POC? I believe the RFP states contract term expected, it provides a range of 12 to 36 months with an option to extend. That's listed on, I think, one of the first page or first couple pages of the RFP. So that, and I think hopefully that answers that question. I'm not sure what POC stands for. And then the next question I see here, is it acceptable to start with a smaller scope? Only certain types of plans and certain smaller subset of rules first?
I'll go ahead and
I would say
take that. Elizabeth, hopefully you're going to say yes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a proof of concept is totally in order.
Yes, I think that's clear in the RFP that we definitely want the proposals to be structured so that we can establish proof of concept before a lot of time and money is invested into building out the full system. We said total cost at this point of $500,000. So I think, you know, a proposal that would be clear about what's required to establish proof of concept, and then what, if any, additional work could be covered under a $500,000 limit towards the full product would be information we'd like to receive.
Great. And yes, I would just note that that is a budget of up to $500,000. So, you know, obviously price is a consideration that will be evaluated as part of the evaluation criteria. So please keep that in mind as you're preparing your proposal, including the price proposal in the Excel spreadsheet that we provided. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So last chance to throw anything into the chat here to you know, potentially get a live answer. Otherwise, we look forward to reviewing any additional questions that you might have. and hopefully reviewing the submissions that you provide before September 22nd. And here we see, to confirm the 500,000, is that intended to cover only the POC or POC and follow-on fees?
And I'm assuming POC refers to proof of concept.
Yeah, that's my guess too. And I would say that no, it's not only intended to cover that. It's essentially the maximum amount we have budgeted at this point. We'd like to get as much out of it as we can. So I think, as I said earlier, if the proposals could identify what it's going to take to establish proof of concept, and then if more can be done within a maximum budget of $500,000 to identify what additional work could be covered after the proof of concept is established.
And I imagine the follow-on fees is referring to kind of any, once the proof of concept is established, kind of any fees that would be charged for use of then the proof of concept. We would like you to include what those costs would be.
That's right. And I'd also say that if the maximum budget established with $5,000 cannot get us to the full product that we're looking for, I think proposers are welcome to identify, if we were to expend up to $500,000, how far could we get, and then what more would be required to get the full product we're looking for. That would be helpful information to have.
Great. And yes, thank you for confirming. I see an attendee confirmed proof of concept is what POC stands for. So thank you for that. All right. If there aren't any other questions, thank you all for making time to join us today. Our hope by having today's meeting is that you all have the information that you need to prepare a detailed proposal that meets the needs that our department has. And we look forward to answering any additional questions that you might have. Regarding references, what is the county's preference for customer references? I think it would be helpful to, if you have customers that you've worked with, I think we would prefer a local government customer if you have worked with a government or local government specifically. And so those would be our preference. But if you don't have those, then another customer with similar project would be useful. I don't know if Steve has anything else to add there.
Yeah, well, what I'd add is that if a customer has been on the development side of the planning and building process, so if you've developed products that are similar to the type of product we're requesting, but for the private development side of the field, references from those customers would be welcome as well.
And just to clarify, we did, as part of the RFP submittal, we have asked that each proposer provide references to the County of San Mateo for clients that you have worked with in the past that we'd be able to contact to speak with. So thank you for that question. Okay, with that, I think we can wrap up for today, unless there's any final questions. I don't see any more. We hope you all have a great afternoon, and thanks again for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Ellie.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone, for attending. Bye-bye.